Hello, and thanks for joining us for the Civic Summit. I'm Judy Maggio. Tonight, we're focusing on education and the future of Austin Public Schools. For the next hour, I'm joined by Dr. Cruz, the sole finalist to become Austin ISD Superintendent. Right now, he's serving as Interim Superintendent. Tonight, we'll also hear from our studio audience made up of students, teachers, parents, and other community members, and they'll have a chance to ask Dr. Cruz some direct questions about the issues facing AISD. Now, helping me out is Kennedy Huff. Kennedy is a PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Labs All-Star. She is a local high school senior, and Kennedy will be fielding questions for Dr. Cruz from our audience. So let's begin. Thank you so much for being here tonight. First of all, you've been interim superintendent for about 9 months.
Correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Tell us what you've learned so far leading the district and how this could help you continue to lead down the road.
Well, first of all, thank you, Judy. I feel quite humbled right now and honored because I used to see on TV since forever, right? And so it's like, oh my gosh, Judy Maggio, she is a rock star. So I'm like really, thinking,
I could never
well,
do
I need
your
an autograph.
job. Let me tell you that. I could never do your job. Leading a huge school district, I think that's a very difficult job.
As long as I get your autograph at the end, then I think we're going to be okay, right? So, and you heard other folks saying that as well. So thank you so much for your time and
happy to
for
do
KLRU. Exactly, talking about what I think is most important really in our work, and that's about education and the future leaders. And so to the question, what I've learned in this time, I have been in Austin, and I've lived in here in this area for several years off and on. What I've learned in this time is I just have had an opportunity just to have a deeper knowledge and understanding of the inner workings of the school system, understanding from the governance structure with the board, understanding our finance systems, and many of the schools and programs that I've known, but I've had the opportunity just to really understand more of the entire Austin landscape, and I've been fortunate to have that opportunity to do that.
Let's talk about AISD and its future. I know a new report came out yesterday that said in the next 10 years, the district will lose about 4,000 families. Families are moving out to the suburbs in record numbers. What's your pitch to parents on why they should stay in AISD?
Austin ISD is a phenomenal school system. It is one of the best in the country, and we have so many rich programs in our schools. We have 129 instructional sites. We have something there for every single student. And I think that's what's important, is understanding what we have in Austin and making sure that we do a better job of communicating that. But understanding that demographics and changes in Austin, it's a little bit complex. So while overall we have dropped in enrollment, high school, we've actually increased in enrollment. At the middle school, didn't quite meet our target, but elementary, that's where it's significant. And it was really pre-K and K. We're also looking at lower birth rates in pre-K. And so I just think that while those are some big numbers that we look at in the entire district, we also have some communities that have actually grown in enrollment. Northwest Austin is growing significantly. Southeast Austin and Southwest Austin are also experiencing growth. So our sort of situation around enrollment is very different across our entire community.
And I know you're building 2 new high schools south, is that right?
Well, at this point, we're looking at land. What the board was authorized to do was to look at the purchase of land. And so that's really where we are at this point.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the transfer policy. This has been controversial over the years. So if you want to, in some areas, you can opt out of your neighborhood school and choose to go to another school with an AISD. I know that this affects enrollment, especially sometimes at the low-income schools. Talk about that, how you might address it, and if the transfer policy will stay in place the way it is.
Right now, we will be looking at transfer options, but it's something that we want to look at choice. It's something that's been strong in Austin ISD because we do have specialized programming, from magnets to schools of choice to different types of curriculum transfers that students and parents can apply for, and we're going to continue in that fashion. I think that what we want to look at, and the board just recently approved policies to look at students who live outside the district can actually come in and enroll in Austin ISD, and that's something that the board approved in December. So there are just some differences there that we're looking at now. Our situation around enrollment, what can we do to get the word out about our programs in Austin, and maybe even offer them to students who live outside the school system.
And perhaps that would beef up enrollment at some of those.
Absolutely, and that would.
Okay. Let's talk about the legislature. The 84th Texas legislature just convened, and education is front and center. First of all, vouchers. How could a voucher program that would take kids really out of the public schools and put them in private schools, how would you tackle that as a superintendent at AISD?
Well, the first thing, and these are, it just started today, and so the legislative next few days will be all-encompassing, looking at finance and vouchers and many other types of programs around House Bill 5, the implementation of House Bill 5. What I think and how to tackle this on is, first of all, we are a phenomenal school district. We have great programs, programs that are recognized in schools, that are recognized in the state of Texas and the country. And we have programming that other folks across the country are looking at and looking at Austin. So I think it's important to recognize that we have so many schools, programs, offerings that are new, some that we've done over time, and we're continue to build our new programs, such as one-way and two-way dual language immersion, such as our schools of choice that we want to continue to promote, single gender schools. So we have so many different offerings that I think are essential for Austin.
And we're going to be talking about some of those dual language issues and also gender schools in just a moment. But first, since we're already on the legislature and we're talking about school finance, Austin kind of gets hit with a double whammy because we're losing students and we're having to share a lot of our money with some of the poor districts. And I know that this is tied up in the courts right now, but how can AISD overcome some of these huge funding challenges?
Well, first, I think it's to recognize that it is a challenge. We have been a recapture or Chapter 41 district, which is under the Robin Hood system. We have been a Chapter 41 district for several years. We are at a point that now, to this point, over the past 10 years, we have given to the state over $1.4 billion. Because of Austin's property value and the growth that we're experiencing at such an accelerated pace, this year we're going to give the state over $175 million. For the year 2018, if this continues as is, and there is no stopgap in place, so there's nothing in place right now to stop it, we will give to the state $301 million. So first, it's recognizing that it's not business as usual. While we have been a Chapter 41 district over time, we're experiencing such rapid growth in property values, it's accelerating the pace and the amount of money that we're sending to the state. And that is significant. That is significant.
So how can you overcome some of those funding challenges? I guess you're waiting with bated breath to see how the judge rules in this case.
Well, one is through the courts, right? But then there are other avenues that we can look at. In Austin, we fund our full-day pre-K program. That's a value that's important to us. We fund half-day for that. The state funds the other half. Well, there could be something we could propose legislation and work with that so that we could actually keep some of that money. There are offsets for a district, or proposed offsets perhaps, for a district such as Austin ISD that pays into Social Security. Maybe we get some type of benefit for that to say, well, because you pay into Social Security, we're going to have an offset on this other cost. As a Chapter 41, we do not get money for transportation. So there's proposed legislation there. So there's bits and pieces that we can look at that maybe it's not going to be a huge school finance issue, but it is about funding and resources, and it's about an approach that'll keep that money here in Austin to help our students. We are a district with over 60% poverty. And so we know we need the supports and the resources right here in Austin. We also have 27% of our students are English language learners. Our teachers can do it. We can make it happen for all students, but we do need the support and resources to make sure kids learn and excel.
Well, you just touched on this. So you say 60%, about 60% of the students in the district are economically disadvantaged, and a huge chunk are also not English proficient. So right now, the Texas Civil Rights Project is calling on AISD to do a self-assessment, so to speak, on this inequity. What do you think about that? Should AISD undergo a self-assessment to look into this very real issue facing the district right now?
Well, first I'll say is we're also about equity. We are about, in Austin ISD, we are about providing every single student with an equal life chance. That's exactly what we're about in Austin. That's in our value system. We have had conversations with the representatives from TCRP, and very productive conversations about equity, about school systems, about Austin and how It sort of fits into the entire state system. And we come to the agreement. We are about equity. I do think it's important that over time we reflect back on our work, on our resources, on our goals, and then say we are about equity, we are about an equal life chance. So where are we in relation to that outcome? Let's juxtapose the two. If we like what we're seeing, great. If we're not, then let's change it.
Do you feel like you are addressing this, though? Because I know that the Civil Rights Project is threatening to go to the U.S. Department of Education if this self-assessment isn't to their liking.
With our school system, we are experiencing the highest graduation rates we've ever had at 84.1%. We have every student group at 80% or better. That was not the case a few years ago. So to the question, am I happy and proud of that? Of course I am. But do I also know and recognize that we have some areas where we need some work? Absolutely. Absolutely. We know we need to make some changes. But it is about looking at where we're making some positive strides in student growth and where we're not. And it's actually just calling it and say, well, it's not where we want it to be. It needs to change. The good news is, though, it is on an upward trajectory.
Now, one of the discrepancies is how much money the school PTAs spend, because if you have a school in West Austin or Northwest Austin or Southwest Austin, the parents start chipping in and raising the level, raising the bar. That's not going to happen when parents don't have money to spend in some of the lower income schools. How do you equalize that? How do you attack something like that that's been such an entrenched problem in AISD for decades?
Well, I think first of all, it's to recognize, why do parents do this? Something that's a benefit in Austin is the advocacy among our parents and our constituency. It's very strong. People believe in public education. Sometimes we think that conversation occurs in every district. It does not. It occurs here in Austin. It's important to recognize that that's a strength. What I do think we have to look at is student outcomes. Are we at with student outcomes where we need to be with all schools, all communities, and all student groups? If the answer is yes, we're moving forward in the right way. If it's not, why not? And do we need more resources or more support or professional development? There could be so many different opportunities here, but it's for us to really study that and look at it. And so what I do think is, again, it's important is to recognize as to why folks come to the table. And it's, again, they are advocating for their individual students, and that's important.
And how will you get those resources to the schools that need it? Just taking a hard look at where the money's being allocated?
Well, the first one, as we talked earlier, was the legislative session. There's money that's here, and it doesn't go back to the state. It is really Austin's tax money. So it's just money that's sent to the state. I think the first thing is look at how can we keep some of our money here in Austin ISD. $175 million, just to put that into perspective, when we look at teacher pay and we look at compensation, which is a very real issue. We have an employment base of 12,200. We have 6,000 teachers. What does $175 million represent? That's a little under $30,000 per teacher. So that's just sort of to make it real. What does that actually mean? That's what it actually would mean as far as if we look at compensation, that would be one factor.
One of the popular ideas sweeping the country right now are these dual language programs, and I know that AISD is expanding this a little bit. Can you talk about what dual language programs do for a district and what you're looking at as far as expanding that in AISD?
Bueno, pues primeramente para un superintendente, ¿verdad? Puede hablar inglés y español. So that's the first thing. As an adult, what does it do? It provides that opportunity for someone to understand and be proficient in two different languages. Now, it is English and another language. Most of our two-way dual language programs are about Spanish, but we're looking at other programs as well, and Vietnamese is one we're going to begin for this next school year. And so again, it's about proficiency in English, but it's about acknowledging that a student, and many students come to us with a different language. Our approach is to talk about that as an additive model. It's not a deficit. It's an additive model that you do speak another language. Let's get you to learn English, but continue in your primary language. But it's also about biliteracy, biculturalism. It's about bilingualism as well. Those are the three key factors in our two-way dual language program. But again, the main thing here is that it's an additive model. It's a plus if you speak another language, but we're going to get you to learn English as well.
Mm-hmm. Can you expand it to the high school level, though?
Absolutely, we can. You know, we started the study maybe about 6 years ago on how we were going to approach our bilingual education. That's really where the question came. That's what we were trying to solve for a problem, and that was about the proficiency of students who are English language learners. That's where it all started, way back, sort of in those conferences and discussions with parents. And we said, we're going to look at an additive model. We're going to look at a one-way dual language program for elementary students beginning in the lower grades. And then we also looked at a two-way dual language program. Right now we have our pilot group of students where we had 4 initial schools that signed up and said, yes, I want a two-way dual language program. The students are in 5th grade. Our board in December approved 2 middle schools to be dual language schools, and that's Burnett, and another one is Fulmore. And so we're looking at this next year, we'd have our first group of 6th graders who are part of our two-way dual language program, and we're going to continue studying about how we're going to do this at the high school level. So the answer to the question, can we do high school? Absolutely. But of course, we have to study and see what we're doing and how we're doing this, the implementation plan in middle school.
Very good. Take a quick break and just tell you guys that you can start lining up for questions. I have one more question before we go to audience. If a couple of you want to get in place there, that would be fantastic, and it would help us when we go to edit. One of the issues that's very interesting this year is...
It just hit me. I'm again next to Judy Maggio, but anyway.
And I'm next to Cruz. I can't believe it. No, I think
and then Donna Hauser's in the audience, Being
a school
Miss Hauser, she's like another rock star out there, right?
I know, she's a legend. She was our principal at Anderson and Murkison. She's terrific. So many great educators, and my hat's off to everyone who makes a living in the education business, because I think it's, with all the changes and all the difficulties, most people really are in it because it's in their heart, and they care about the kids, and they want to make life better for them.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about single gender schools. This is something new. There are 2 new ones that opened this year, and it's Gus Garcia Young Men's Leadership Academy, Bertha Sadler Means Young Women's Leadership Academy. Is this a trend? Are we going to see more of these gender-specific schools in the future in AISD?
It really starts on the problem we're trying to solve for. So the way this emerged, we didn't come up and say, we need more single gender schools. We knew that at Garcia and Pierce now is Bertha Sadler Means School for Young Women Leaders, we had to do something different. We had to do something significant that was going to be a game changer for the schools. We just had to. And so after careful study and review, the model that came together was around single gender education. And so what we said is look at 2 middle schools, creating that single gender environment in both schools, but it was really about a culture of high expectations. And it really was our conversations with our teachers and our staff members and our leadership and with our parents and constituency about creating this culture of high expectations for all students. That's really where all this really came together from the initial point, and the professional development for teachers and staff members has been around differentiation of instruction. It has been more so about how students process and how they learn. It's been about how you build a culture of excellence and high expectations. That's really what it was. So to the question, could it happen in another area? It could. Do we have a planned approach for that? We don't. Because in Austin, and something I've known and just really love about the city, is that one size does not fit all. We can't take one program and say, put it across the board, put it in every single, 80 plus elementary school. It doesn't work like that. It really has to emerge from individuals who are right there in the community with our parents and our teachers to understand and know what they are experiencing and knowing how we're going to move forward.
And I know that single gender schools have had mixed results. Some of the research is good, some isn't so good. So you can study these 2 and then figure out if AISD needs more.
Absolutely. And of course, we've had the Ann Richards School has been phenomenally successful.
It's a wonderful program.
It is. I was the associate superintendent for middle schools when we actually opened up with our grade 6 and grade 7. Last year, we had our very first seniors who graduated as 6th graders, who were initially entered the program as 6th graders and graduated as seniors. And it was a very emotional event. We have a phenomenal principal at the school, and that school is just doing so well. And the rich opportunities provided for the students there, just amazing. I'm very, very proud of the school.
It's a very special place. We want to go out to the audience now, and Kennedy has some questions from our studio guests.
I am here with Megan Gibbons. She is a stay-at-home mom, and her question is about dual language.
Hello, Dr. Cruz. Thank you for being here this evening. How will you ensure that principals and teachers in all dual language schools have the support and encouragement they need to fully implement dual language at all grade levels this year and into the future?
You know, it's important. I have been thinking through this with my staff as well. I'm going to ask the question, and we've been asking those questions. Do we have the right resources and tools to move forward? We have to come back on our program design because we are following a very specific program around the amount of English that's taught at specific grade levels and also the content that's taught in English or in our 4 initial schools, the other language is Spanish. It's about what's our program model and how are we doing along those lines with the program model? What are the resources? Where are we doing well? Where are we not? But it's important to have that conversation. What I also think is important is to call it. If we are not providing the supports and the resources in the right way, or the staff development isn't the right one, or something in the model is not demonstrating that it's being effective for us. For example, we had one school, I was at the school just right before the break in December, said we really need to start increasing the amount of Spanish instruction at the lower grades. I recognize that, and I was there visiting and walking around and talking to the teacher, talking with the principal, so then let's do that. Because our students need to be proficient, the way our model is in elementary, the students need to be proficient in 2 languages at the end of 5th grade.
I think we have another question from an audience member. You know, in Europe, it seems like language learning is much more popular. The kids really start at a much younger age learning a second language, and more the United States is adopting that, and it looks like AISD is trying to expand it as well. Our next question from an audience member.
I'm here with Bobby Lasoya, and he is from Mendez Middle School.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz, for inviting Mendez Middle School and for the opportunity to have our voices heard. Dr. Cruz, what made you want to become a superintendent?
Great, thoughtful question. You know? I started off as a teacher, and my thing was about teaching language arts, and I love teaching reading. So that's really where it started for me. I think sort of over time, I started looking at working with having a greater impact and maybe being a campus-based leader. Then after that, and actually came back here for my PhD work at UT because I had to have a PhD and it had to be from UT. That's just I had to be a Longhorn, right? I think for me it was understanding that we had work to do for all students. And as a teacher, I could see that. And I do remember working with students who were at certain grade levels and were not reading proficiently. And I said, that's not right. What can we do to change that? And so from that, experiences there, then experiences on how I could perhaps impact more students in some way, really have really led me to this point. How I got to this one, I just love Austin. And my training has been around the urban superintendency. That's where I had a fellowship here with the University of Texas at Austin. So, and your principal's in the audience. I saw Mr. Gonzalez. There he is. So he'd be really proud.
Great question. And we're going to have some more questions from the audience in just a moment. But first, I want to talk to you about one of your big initiatives. I was not familiar with this, social and emotional learning. Tell us what that is and why you think it's so important for AISD.
Well, it's so important. Social and emotional learning is basically teaching kids about problem solving and decision making and empathy and understanding how to relate to others and understanding your own emotions and sort of how you manage your emotions. That's social and emotional learning. Our approach in Austin, which I think has been a very thoughtful approach, and we didn't do this on our own because this was a new area for us as a school system. We do have over 85,000 students, 129 sites, 6,000 teachers, 12,200 employees, so this system doesn't turn on a dime. It really does take a very thoughtful, deliberate approach to actually implement with fidelity. And we had some partners. We had CASTLE. So CASTLE came in, the Nova Foundation came in to support us around social and emotional learning. Our approach is that we were going to use, and those things that I talked about, problem solving, decision making, empathy, we were actually going to teach that through our curriculum. So when we were studying Greek mythology, and we were studying different characters such as Echo and Narcissus and sort of that relationship, there are relationships there that we could then discuss and then students can relate that to their own context. That's just one example. But it really is understanding emotions, how to manage your own emotions, how do you work with others, and it's really making sure that we're being very deliberate about teaching those types of skills and not just saying, well, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. No, we need to be very deliberate about it.
This sounds like something that could also be applied in the corporate world today. We can all use more social and emotional learning, but it's really about mental health, and that does play a role in the social and emotional well-being of your students.
Absolutely, it does. It's something that I think our students, much more than when I started off in this business, because of different pressures around graduation rates, pressures that are self-imposed many times from students, that we need to recognize that and not just say that students are going to be okay. We have to talk to our kids. We have to talk to them and ask them. And so I think that's really important, something we just can't take for granted.
Not only are you brand new as superintendent to AISD, but Austin has a brand new mayor in Steve Adler, and almost all of the council members are new except for one. So everybody's going to be starting afresh, starting anew. The new mayor, Steve Adler, has talked about an education outreach coordinator position in the mayor's office. That's one thing, and also improving the quality of pre-K. What do you think about those ideas, and how can you achieve them?
I think that's a positive. I think that's a positive that we have from the city level. And we had just in this past few months had, and not just me, our board members as well, had engaged in different conversations with the mayor, with our city council members, and our approach is really developing a stronger relationship. That's something that's really important. What impacts Austin ISD. What impacts Austin ISD impacts the city of Austin. And so we need to make sure that we're connecting and we're developing that relationship so that our mayor then has this approach, has an approach as far as making sure that education and the importance of education is always considered at the table. That's a positive. That's a positive. We've already met to discuss some of the initial considerations, and I think that's a positive, and in fact with many of the city council members as well.
Oh, so you have met with some of the new council members from 10-1 and also Steve Adler.
Correct.
Great. And what do you think about this education outreach coordinator position in the mayor's office? Would that be a benefit, or do you think it might be a little too much interaction?
Yeah, we have so much work to do in Austin ISD. I welcome the support and assistance. That's something in Austin. People are willing to step up to the plate and help. You know, in Austin, I say we can do it, but we can't do it alone. We do need to have the partnerships. We need our constituency with us. We need kids with us. So I think it's important. I think it's going to be a benefit.
If we could get some more folks lined up for question and answer, and we're going to move on to pre-K. Great. And real quick, Allison, how many questions do you want Kennedy to ask at a time? 2, 3? 3 or 4? Okay, all right. All right, I'll go ahead and go to the pre-K question, and then we'll head it back to the audience. Is that okay? Okay. One of the things our new mayor, Adler, talked about was strengthening pre-K. Interestingly enough, this has been another push for Governor-elect Abbott. He also wants to strengthen our pre-K programs, start them young, start education before they are actually in kindergarten. Would you like to see AISD expand pre-K, and how would we pay for it?
Well, not only would I like to see it expand, our board does as well. So our board, understanding that the legislative session comes and it was going to start today, was very proactive. So back in June, our board adopted and approved our legislative priorities. One of those was around pre-K. Specifically, it was about having pre-K for all students. So the law in Texas says that students must meet eligibility for funds to come into the school system to support the half-day program. What we're looking at is pre-K, universal pre-K for all. So again, it's one of those things that Austin, you know, we can't skip a beat. In Austin, we need to do this like yesterday. And so our board has been very thoughtful, has, I think, demonstrated that leadership, that it's important to look forward, see what's ahead, what are the opportunities, and then pre-K was one of those. And we look at that as having initial instruction to start earlier to make sure that students then get the language skills that are necessary, understanding how schools work, and kids are coming into the school system earlier. So much so that this year we actually started a couple of 3-year-old programs in some of our schools.
So even before, it's pre-K.
That's correct.
So the governor, if he is big on pre-K, wouldn't the state need to help you out a little bit on this? Because it's not free to educate these kids at the pre-K level.
That's right. It comes at a cost. So we'll be right there advocating for full day funding for pre-K and pre-K for all students.
Advocating is a fancy word for lobbying. Right? All right, let's turn to our audience now and hear some more questions. Kennedy?
I'm here with Dolly Lambden, and her question is about health and physical education.
Thanks for being here, Dr. Cruz. The evidence has been mounting and mounting to what we all knew, I think, in our hearts, that our health affects every aspect of our lives. The evidence that hadn't been there before is how important physical activity is for cognitive function, for academic achievement. No Child Left Behind has sort of forced teachers into feeling like they have to spend every moment drilling on the content areas, and they haven't really felt they had the time to allow children to be physically active in schools or just have physical education as a high priority. Yet Finland, who's highest in the world, has 15 minutes out of every hour devoted to physical activity, and physical education is a core subject. What will you do to be the leader in terms of helping teachers believe that active learning is important and the time in the day for kids to be physically active and to take care of their health is important?
Absolutely. I'm so glad the question, comes forward. And I know that that's very, very strong and important for you as well. So thanks always for being at our side with this and always bringing it to the forefront. And there's really two elements of health. One is around mental health that we just talked about earlier. The other was about physical fitness. What I intend to do in working with the staff, and we already have, the good news is we have something in place around our creative learning initiative that fits in nicely with physical fitness or physical movement in the learning environment, so that we're actually working and looking and embedding in our curriculum opportunities for students to still be engaged in the lesson, but to actually get up, act out the play, act out that story, act out what they've been reading. So again, it is about still content, because the kids are understanding the literature and the characters and analyzing characters, but they're up and they're moving and they're interacting, and that's really important. And so what we're doing then is looking how we can embed this within our curriculum every day. So it's not as a separate, it's actually, of course, we have physical activity and WOW time in our schools, but this would be in addition to. And again, it's also as adults. Many times we're at our desk, we need to get up, or we're in a meeting or a conference room, we need to just get up. A few minutes, get up, refresh, and we're back on it again. And I think that's important just to reflect on that. No, that's valued. It's valuable for me as an adult. Well, it certainly is also important and valued for an 8-year-old or a 16-year-old to have that same opportunity.
I think we have some young people who are going to be asking questions.
Okay, I'm here with La Linda Reyes from Mendez Middle School.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz, for inviting us. As a superintendent, is there going to be more high school classes that prepare you for college?
Absolutely. That's one of our goals. And we have a group that's around our strategic planning, and that's also at the cornerstone of their work. What we have is certain classes right now through Avid, and there's just some other classes as well that are more so specifically school-based classes, that we look at the preparation, the guidance, and the counseling piece. We also want to expand the number of students who actually earn college credit but are still in high school. And so right now we have 2 schools, LBJ and Reagan. While we have at all of our high schools, students can earn college credit through dual credit or early college start. We actually then opened up 2 early college high schools. This year will be the first year we have students who are going to graduate as early college high school graduates. And in that program, in that opportunity, students begin as freshmen and can actually start taking college credit. And by the time they walk across the stage, they can have earned a high school diploma and an associate's degree. And they could have earned 60 college credits. So to answer the question is absolutely, we need to continue to expand that in all of our high schools.
And that's something that really does save families money as well. In college costs, it's much more affordable to do it that way. Our next question comes from another young student. Kennedy?
I'm with Carla Relade, and she is from Mendez Middle School.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz, for having me here. I want to be a psychologist when I'm older, but what classes can I take to help me start my career?
Well, I think it's important that we have our different graduation plans. And you're in which grade right now? 8th grade. You're in 8th grade. So you are going to enroll, our board unanimously approved that every student who's in 8th grade coming into high school is going to be enrolled in the Distinguished Level of Achievement Plan. There are 5 different endorsements. Each of those endorsements has a different career pathway. You get to select that. So in this next semester, what I'd like for you to do, first of all, you can always call me or email me. There's a couple of students who just called an email the other day. I'm going to go visit with them about some of the work that they're doing at their school. I'd encourage you to look at those pathways, look at the courses. And psychology, that's what it is. Then where does that sort of fit in with your overall plan? And making sure that those opportunities are offered there at your school. If not, then what is the school that's going to offer that particular pathway?
This might be a good time to talk about House Bill 5, since this young woman is in 8th grade. And under House Bill 5, the students are really going to take 2 different tracks. They're either going to college readiness or career readiness. Can you tell us how this is going to impact AISD and the choices that students have in the future?
Well, in this opportunity with House Bill 5, and the way we approached it, every student will be college and career ready. So that really is our definition about readiness. It's college and career ready. So career technical education is also important. The 5 endorsements, some are more based on CTE or career technology education, and some are not. What I do think is a benefit is that every student with their parent can make that decision. Now, initially, they're going to enroll in one of those endorsements, but it's going to take time before the student actually takes classes in that endorsement. And that's a collection of 3 to 4 different classes that students will have to take to earn an endorsement in, such as STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. It could be something like in a health field. So there are different opportunities there. What I do think is important is that in Austin, and always to remember, is that in Austin ISD, we chose the most rigorous plan, the highest plan that's offered in the state of Texas. And we said that's important for us here in Austin, and it's important for us. All of our students need to graduate under that Distinguished Level of Achievement Plan.
So this is really going to impact the high schools and what's offered there, and you're going to have to kind of plan for what you want to take and how it's going to keep you on that particular track.
Absolutely.
Very good. Let's have another question from the audience.
This is Kirsten Rodriguez from Mendez Middle School.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz, for this opportunity. And my question is for you. What do you expect your schools to achieve academically?
Academically, I want to make sure that every single school and every single student is ready for the next grade level. I want to make sure that every senior in our schools, when they graduate and walk across that stage, they are ready for college and career. Whatever their choice is with their parents, they need to be ready for the next step. And that's important to me. So an 8th grader needs to be ready to be a freshman and be successful. Reading on grade level, understanding their academic work, and that they're proficient, that's important. That's really important to me.
Dr. Cruz, under your predecessor, Dr. Karstafen, there were some complaints. There were some parents protesting, saying that teachers felt and parents felt that there was a loss of confidence in AISD. How are you going to regain that confidence? How are you going to better communicate with these parents and teachers? Of course, a forum like this helps, right, but what are some other ways?
You know, well, I think it's about working hand in hand with people. It's about acknowledging that, you know, we took some hits on that. Some of our relationships, we have some communities who felt disengaged, who didn't feel connected, and that we weren't listening. What's important, I think, first of all, is to acknowledge it and not say, well, no, we were, and say, no, you weren't. It's a matter of saying, you know, this is the way it was. What can we do to move forward and actually build strong relationships? So in our work, it is about building strong relationships. Just as we talked about social and emotional learning for students. You talk about that in the corporate world. Well, that's also good for us in the education world as well. I do think that's important. I do think it's recognizing that. It's having this opportunity in this time period is going out to different communities and working and looking, you know, working hand in hand with our communities on the different approaches and their different work. That's also just sort of been my approach in general. But I think that we need to really ramp up our approach as far as building positive relationships and fostering the good work that can happen when you do have a strong relationship.
This probably ties into what I read in the Statesman recently when you were talking about tackling the culture of fear in AISD. What exactly do you mean by that, and how are you going to tackle it?
Well, I think first of all, it's talking about what do we want? What are our mutual goals and expectations for our students? I think that's the first point. And it's really having that conversation to say we're really about the same thing. All of us want our kids to excel, to learn and excel. How do we get there? What I also think is important is building trust. So when the conversations occur, it's about having important conversations, having that conversation at the table, being respectful about whatever that is, and then developing a strategy for improvement. And then building trust, it's about follow through. So whatever we said we're going to do, we have to do. If we can't, we have to say that's something we can't do. And it's about being honest about that. But it's always about fostering that positive relationship in having a culture of fear or any culture that isn't conducive to important decision making it's not a good thing. So how to deal with that is just to acknowledge it, to make sure that we say that happened. How do we move forward so that we can actually work together to improve student learning?
Speaking of improving student learning, I know you traveled to the White House last year to take part in a town hall around the president's My Brother's Keeper initiative. Tell us more about this. And is this going to help young men of color in AISD because you are involved in this project?
That was a wonderful opportunity that came from the Council of Great City Schools, where our district did sign off on a pledge and saying that there are some things that we realize and we see in our system that we need to change. And having that opportunity hear from our president, we also participated, Trustee Bradley, Cheryl Bradley, who's a former trustee in District 1, she and I both went. And really listening to the president, but also listening to the students. It was also a student forum, so they were able to ask questions. And that was very powerful. That was very powerful. Those are some things that we're having our conversations with Austin, and we've created our own initiative around this, Project Males. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be working with our city leaders about, because there's a community opportunity here. It certainly is a district. It absolutely is, and we're there. But it's also a community conversation that needs to occur.
And we have another student ready to ask a question. Kennedy?
This is Chris Sheldon, Thayard.
What's the biggest conflict that you had to deal with so far, and how do you think you would handle it?
The biggest conflict. So, my day could start off to read with 4-year-olds, to dealing with the boundary issue, to dealing with the budget deficit issue, to getting a letter about My Brother's Keeper and going to the White House. I just never know what the day presents. I think the biggest challenge is still knowing and realizing, but owning up to it, that not all of our students are graduating from high school. And it's important that every student earns a high school diploma. We need to get them ready for college and career. That's an absolute. But all students need to earn a high school diploma. And and just meeting with my team today, we do know that we have some students who are not on track to walk across that stage. That's a significant issue. And that's something we can never take our eye off the ball on that one. We always have to make sure all kids are graduating from high school.
Good question.
Ken Stewart.
I'm here with Ken Stewart.
Dr. Cruz, thank you for being here today. We have a number of excellent magnet schools in the Austin AISD. Would you give me your comments on magnet schools, please?
Well, we have our magnet schools are some of the best in the country, and we recognize and we acknowledge that. We want folks to know about it. It's a wonderful opportunity. And so, again, I think that here with our magnet schools and our schools of choice, because we also have schools of choice, that provide students and families another opportunity on a solid education. And those work, and they are specialized in their fields for different reasons, and our kids connect. And they've been important for us in Austin.
Let's have one of our students here to ask a question.
Hello, my name is Esmeralda Aguilar from the Ann Richards School, and my question is, how will you increase parent involvement in order to receive more support for high schoolers to graduate, for high school students to graduate?
I think that's so important. There's different ways to communicate. One is there are language issues out there with our constituency, with our parents, and it's recognizing and providing information in a language that parents know and understand and are comfortable. So that's important, I think. Another one is informing parents about opportunities, whether it be through technology or through communications, through emails or online systems, or face-to-face. It depends on what the issue is. But it's having that ongoing conversation with our parents and recognizing that we value parents. We want parents to come into the school. We want parents to ask questions about our graduation plans. It's a big change when we change our graduation plans. We want to make sure that parents are informed and know that there is a change that's happened, and they actually ask important questions about the kids. That's important.
Thank you.
This is Joseph Martinez from Mendez.
It's an honor, and thank you for this opportunity.
It's my honor, Mr. Martinez.
And my question is, what are your goals to help kids get to high school and college?
Well, one is we need to make school hard, right? We want strong academics, right? So when you get to UT or wherever you want to go, it's like, I already did that. I already did that at Travis when I was a Rebel there, Travis Rebels or an Aikens Eagle or wherever the school you're going to go to. You're into your rhetoric and composition course, whatever that first course is, or whatever the course is in math or anything like that. It's like, I already did that. I did that in high school. You are just so ready. So we have to make it hard. So we do things in schools, such as our curriculum roadmaps and sort of the work that we're doing. It is hard for a reason, because we want to make sure that we have rigor in our curriculum so that you're ready once you graduate from high school. You're ready for your next step.
I think he'll be ready. I have just a good feeling about that. Let's talk about how expensive it is to live in Austin, Texas. The cost of living just keeps going up. There are a lot of parents who are working 2 jobs. There are a lot of high school kids who are also working jobs. How do you keep this group of parents and students engaged because they're so busy in the workforce? How do you keep them interested in school?
I think it's changed so much over time as far as parent engagement. Now we do have opportunities, and we have even student even took another step and created even an app for parents to understand what's going on with the student as far as attendance and discipline and their grades. And parents have access to the information in real time. And at the end of the day, that's what parents mainly want to know first. How's my child doing? How are they doing in English and in social studies or my math class, whatever that is. And it's about providing information to parents in real time about their kids. The other one is providing them different opportunities for parents to connect with the teacher or the principal, whether it be a large forum, maybe it's a specialized conversation around a school looking at two-way dual language. But it's about having those important conversations that face-to-face that may need to occur. But I think also it's understanding that we do value parents. Parents need to be informed of their kids' progress. And at the beginning of the year, I heard a lot about our technology system that wasn't quite working as far as students getting their grades and looking at their grades online and so forth. While that needed to get worked out, because that was certainly a significant issue within the system. What I also saw in that, which is a really good thing, is here students were asking in the second, third week of school saying, I can't see my grades and I need to see my grades. And I don't know, it was like that back then 100 years ago when I was in school. You got your grades when
I was there, yeah.
It's like you got your grades when you got your grades, and you got it in writing as a report card. But we don't have to wait to do that anymore. And so it's about providing the access in real time. As far as how the student is doing, we can provide that to the student and to the parent.
With access, though, what do you do with parents who don't have internet access or they may not speak English? How do you reach those parents and keep them engaged?
Well, and we have wonderful examples in this very room. So, I'll pose a question. Have we ever heard of a school having over 300 parents come and talk about getting their kids ready for college and talking about a college experience, and that school happens to be an elementary school? Well, right in our audience is David Dean, the principal of Hart Elementary School, early college prep, where I actually was there. He invited me. I said, I'll be out there. I was amazed, because here, and of course in elementary, students are between the ages of 4 and 11, and some may turn 12. So it's a little bit different for 5th grade, right? But there were over 300 parents there, and it was about a college night. I thought, this is amazing. I use that as an example, as the good news is it happens right here in our own backyard, where parents in a very different community around language and whatever else was done in such an effective way, but we have to acknowledge it and say sometimes the headsets will work. When we talk about an early college high school change, I think we need to provide the entire forum in the language that parents prefer. And if that's Spanish, then that's Spanish. If it's Vietnamese, which I will be at one of our communities this week, having the same discussion, but a school at Summit. So it's a different opportunity, but it's also understanding the community and understanding what those needs and expectations are. But it's realizing that when you have great leaders who then acknowledge it and say, look, we can do this, but we have to do it differently.
Think out of the box. Yeah.
Out of the box, and it works. And, you know, there's even on Twitter, in Twitter world, there's pictures about that as well.
Very good. Let's go back to the audience now, Kennedy.
I think I'm going to out every single principal who's out here, right? So every AISD staff member, I'm even going to call on Suki Steinhauser. But anyway.
I'm here with Richard Frazier. He's an AISD teacher.
Hi, Dr. Cruz.
Hey,
congratulations.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. You and I share a passion for facilities, and we've had some experiences around facilities. You have 129 buildings you mentioned a while ago, and you mentioned also we have growth in certain areas. What's your vision for matching the facilities that we have and potential future facilities to the growth in student population in AISD?
Well, we've just completed and worked at phase 1 schools. So the way we're approaching this is a long-term approach, looking at different phases. So we looked at phase 1. We have some schools that are significantly over-enrolled. We put in some measures there that are different for some of the schools. We're having to relocate pre-K because we have a pre-K center around one school. We're moving pre-K into another school environment that is actually a pre-K center. What we're doing at another school that is significantly also over-enrolled, we have another early childhood center. We're going to relocate students to that school. At another school, we're doing a boundary change. I give those examples because one size does not fit all. District-wide, it is about following our phase-in approach. Phase 1, now we're looking at phase 2. And it's multiple phases to address it, but it's going to be a different strategy and a different approach for that specific area. One size, as you know, Richard, one size doesn't fill in Austin. It's not going to fit. It's not going to work. If we say, well, then everybody does, it's a boundary, it's not going to work. Because in boundary changes, the way the school systems work, the way the school system works, one solution in one area may bring in multiple, significantly impact multiple issues for another community or another campus, and that would be detrimental.
Another question from our audience?
Ryan Zisk.
I'm here with Ryan Zisk.
Hi, Dr. Cruz. I am a band director at Anderson High School. I've actually had the privilege of watching you play the saxophone with the Murchison Middle School Band a few years back, so I know that you're a great supporter of the arts.
I am, but those kids are great. I couldn't keep up. You know, I think I was just sort of playing like this after a while. You know, there's like...
Yeah, I noticed a little bit of it.
You could tell some of that, right?
No, good effort. I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about the role that fine arts play in educating our students and perhaps discuss any plans the district has for better promoting and supporting these programs on our campuses throughout the district.
Well, you know, so far, music is important to us in Austin. Fine arts are important. Yes, it is important to me. I was myself, you know, 100 years ago when I was in school, I was in band and just, it was important. Actually, that was our Friday night thing. You know, my sister was in band, my brother was in band, I was in band. So it's just something that was just sort of our family. My dad was actually a musician. I don't know, maybe that's where I got the music thing, right? So he had his own orchestra, you know, in his younger days. But I think as far as our plans, we will continue to move forward with our creative learning initiative. That's important, and that's about the fine arts in every content area, and so that's important. The other one is about expanding our opportunities, but it is also community-based. So and we just today, heard the Reagan Jazz Band, phenomenal job. I've heard already at Anderson, both in the, you know, the different bands and also choir, phenomenal work. It's about recognizing that, but saying, well, what is it that community wants? Does that community want to begin a mariachi? Well, then so be. Let that be that opportunity. And it's not something it's going to have everywhere because it's not going to happen that way, but it is about saying, well, what does that community want? What are the students, what are they signing up for is another thing that's important. Do the kids want it? And they'll determine that with choice sheets. But as far as commitment to the arts and having that and understanding that's a critical component for kids, many of our kids demonstrate their leadership ability in fine arts as well. And so it provides another opportunity for students to socialize in a very positive way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Time for one more audience question.
I'm here with Donna Hauser.
You know,
Okay,
as a
now I'm
principal,
nervous.
you know, as a principal here in AISD, I am just so blessed by having wonderful teachers who teach at my campus. But I am noticing the stresses that they're feeling, not only because of compensation, but also because the traffic. It's very difficult for them to get from areas where they may be living to the places where they're living or where they're actually working. Childcare. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to address the importance of our focus on our employees and on our teachers in particular, but probably across the board for all of our employees.
Okay. I think it's always important that we always reflect back, and thank you for that, Ms. Hauser. We reflect back that what we all know, that in order for kids to learn, you have to have a great teacher in every single classroom. It is about the teacher, the student, and of course the content, the level of rigor in that classroom that's really going to get the work done. I think it's important compensation is one, but working conditions is another. So while we're still looking at compensation through the finance system, through legislative approaches, there's also a concept, of course, that we look at as working conditions. Are individuals valued? Do teachers feel that they are treated as professionals, that individuals respect them for their work? And that's something that has to occur for every single one of our students, but I do think it's about compensation, all a complete package around salary and insurance and other benefits. We have opened up tuition-based pre-K as well. So there was another thing that was offered for our teachers and our staff members, but it's also about working conditions. Because when you have staff members who feel that they are connected, that they are engaged, principal, a phenomenal one like yourself, who brings them to the table to problem solve, you have a strong team. And there's just really no stopping them then. I mean, there's just no stopping them.
Thank you. So we're trying to get the teachers to class, but we really need the students to be in class too, because that's the #1 driving force
Correct.
in a district. If the students don't show up for class, that's a big reason some of them drop out, obviously. What can you do to prevent students from missing school?
Well, one is to make sure, and what we have are systems in place to identify a student who's not coming to school. If a student who is not coming to school or a student has not been promoted for one grade, there are factors there that tell us that that student is at high risk of dropping out of school, and that's not a good thing. So what we've done in Austin is we talked about enrollment, that we've had enrollment district-wide that actually went down, that dropped. High school, though, actually went up. Well, over these past few years, we really have embarked on a strong initiative around multiple pathways. And from the literature, it's about holding power. Can that school hold the students in the school for 4 years so that they earn their credits and graduate from high school? And so that's literature from when I was back here, many years ago. I'm going to start dating myself, right? When I'm here in graduate school, that I really started reading a lot more on dropout prevention around high school completion. What we've done is we have a strategy around multiple pathways. So one of those was around offering this early college high school experience. Another one was around twilight school. So if a student is aging out and cannot come to school during the regular school day, let's provide an opportunity after the school day for that student and for the families. And we also brought in social supports as well, and that's where communities and schools have been a great partner. I mean, Suki is just, everybody needs a Suki Steinhauser, because she is amazing. It's like in her DNA that she knows she can come. It's something that we've got to work on together. She's very much about students. That's the way our CIS program runs. But our Twilight School, we've also engaged them with CIS to provide the social support, to say it's not just that, okay, the class is here, come take it. The class is here, what other supports can we provide for you? And I think it's important to do that. So Twilight Schools is another one, looking at online courses for students to take courses during the summer where they don't have to sit somewhere and take it. As far as an actual building, they can actually take it in real time. And so we're announcing different opportunities here where for college readiness, students will have access to information that they can actually work on their own around college readiness opportunities, and they don't actually have to sit in the classroom to get that instruction. But it's online courses is something that we've also sort of moved forward in different ways, because kids learn in different ways. Sometimes a student needs the face-to-face on that particular skill or concept. Sometimes they don't. And who knows that as a student knows that. And so wherever they can work independently or sort of go back to that content, we want to provide that opportunity for students.
Education's not one size fits all.
No, it's not. No.
To close out our conversation, we thought it might be interesting if you could address a family who has a kindergartner starting in the fall, and I believe the graduation date will be something like 2028. What would you like to tell those parents that are just embarking on a public school education?
We will make sure that your child will be ready for college, career, and life. We will make sure that your student will be prepared for the college of his or her choice. That's important. And that Austin ISD is a place where we do have more than 85,000 students walk through our classroom doors every single day. It is a school system where we value students. Students come first. That is something run all of our buildings. Students come first. It is about making sure that, and sharing with our parents, that that school has a philosophy that's student first. It is a place where kids will learn and excel, and somebody cares about that child. And that's important. I think that's important to parents, and it's really important to the students.
That's all the time we have for tonight. We want to thank you so much for your insight and wisdom as you embark on a very important job leading Austin Public Schools. Thanks so much for being with us. We want to thank our audience who participated this evening. We also want to thank Kennedy for her help. And by the way, you can watch this conversation again or share it with a friend by visiting klru.org. Thank you for watching.